The Galactic Defense Council chamber hummed with the low-frequency vibrations of 100 alien voices. Holographic displays flickered above the central dais, projecting star maps and fleet deployments across the Cygnus Expanse. Admiral Vasquez stood at attention, a black and gold uniform stark against the sea of chitinous, scaled and crystalline delegates. The air smelled of ionized metal and something faintly acidic, Zapirian pheromones. If she had to guess, humanity requests equal participation in the defense of the Cygnus Expanse, Vasquez announced. Her voice steady, the words echoed through the chamber's perfect acoustics, designed to carry even the softest whisper. A ripple of clicking mandibles and hissing laughter followed. High Marshal Cygnus of the Zapirian Dominion rose from his elevated perch, his segmented limbs unfolding with predatory grace. Equal. His voice was a dry rasp like carapace scraping against stone. Your fleet is a relic, slow, unshielded, predictable. The Vorac representative, a biomechanical horror of fused metal and organic tissue, pulsed with amusement. We have scanned your vessels, it intoned, its voice a synthesized growl. Primitive kinetics, no energy shielding. Your ships burn so easily. Vasquez didn't flinch. She had expected this. The Council had never taken humanity seriously, not since first contact, when the Zapirians had laughed at their fragile warships. Then let us prove you wrong, she said. The Luminary Enclave's delegate, a crystalline being whose facets refracted light like a prism, pulsed softly. Admiral Vasquez, it chimed, its voice musical. The Council's decision is unanimous. Your forces lack the technological parity to contribute meaningfully to this campaign. A murmur of agreement spread through the chamber. The Tarkelians, their feathered crests twitching, exchanged glances. The Vorac's mechanical limbs twitched in what might have been a shrug. Vasquez allowed herself a small, cold smile. With all due respect, counselors, you're making a mistake. Cygnus leaned forward, his compound eyes glinting. Oh, enlighten us, Softskin. What could your pitiful navy possibly offer that we do not already possess? Adaptability, Vasquez said, ingenuity, and the willingness to do what you won't. The Vorac representative emitted a grinding noise, its version of laughter. Brave words for a species whose greatest warship still uses chemical propellants. Vasquez's comlink buzzed softly in her ear, a single, encrypted pulse. She exhaled. Very well. If the Council refuses our assistance, we'll stand aside. Cygnus waved a dismissive claw. A wise decision. The Zapirian swarm will cleanse the expanse of the scourge. You may watch from the sidelines, if you wish. The chamber's massive viewports flickered as the holographic displays shifted, zooming in on the Cygnus Expanse. Hundreds of Zapirian hive ships clustered near the edge of the contested zone, their organic hulls glistening under distant starlight. The Vorac's biomechanical dreadnoughts lurked among them, their weaponized tendrils coiled like serpents. Vasquez studied the display, committing every detail to memory. You're confident, then, she said. No contingencies. Cygnus's mandibles parted in what might have been a smile. Contingencies are for weaklings. The luminary delegate pulsed again, its light dimming slightly. Admiral, perhaps there is room for... No, Cygnus interrupted. The matter is settled. Humanity's navy is obsolete. They will not interfere. Vasquez nodded once, as you wish. She turned on her heel and strode toward the exit, her boots clicking against the polished floor. The chamber's massive doors hissed open, revealing the arched corridor beyond. Behind her, the Council's murmurs resumed, already dismissing her, dismissing humanity, as irrelevant. She tapped her comlink. Vasquez to Olympus status? Captain Ryan Blake's voice crackled back, laced with dark amusement. All systems nominal, Admiral. Wraith's cloaking field is holding. They still haven't spotted us. Good. Vasquez allowed herself a fraction of a smile. Stand by, we're about to give the galaxy a lesson in humility. Blake chuckled, looking forward to it. The doors sealed behind her with a final, resonant thud. The Council's decision was made. Their mistake was thinking humanity would obey it. The bridge of the USN Olympus hummed with quiet intensity. Every console glowing with suppressed energy. Admiral Vasquez stood at the center, her hands clasped behind her back as she watched the holographic display of the Cygnus Expanse. The alien fleets, Zapirian and Vorac, blinked ominously near the mining colonies, their formations tight and arrogant. "Status report," Vasquez said, her voice calm. Lieutenant Cole didn't look up from his tactical screen. Zapirian supercarrier Vengeance holding position at Grid 7, Vorac Annihilator moving to flank the Luminary observation post. They're not even bothering to mask their approach. A soft chuckle came over the comm. They think they own the place. Captain Blake's face flickered onto the secondary display, his cockpit dark behind him save for the faint glow of the Wraith's controls. Vasquez allowed herself a small smile. "You ready to remind them they don't?" Blake cracked his knuckles. "Oh, I've been waiting for this." Cole frowned. "Admiral, if we engage now, we're outgunned 3-1. Even with the Olympus, we don't have the firepower for a direct fight." Vasquez turned to him, her eyes sharp. "Who said anything about a direct fight?" She tapped a command into her console across the fleet. Status lights winked out one by one. The Olympus's massive engines dimmed to a whisper. The Wraith vanished entirely, its silhouette dissolving into the black. On the hologram, the human ships disappeared from the tactical readout. Cole's breath caught. "They can't see us." Blake's voice was a grin. "Not a damn thing." Aboard the Luminary observation vessel Eclipse, High Sage Velis watched the unfolding disaster with growing dread. The Vorac were moving in, their planet, killer's tendrils twitching with anticipation. The Zapirian swarm darkened the scanners like a storm. And the humans? Where are their ships? Velis asked, his crystalline fingers hovering over the display. The sensor officer's voice trembled. Gone. No energy signatures, no mass readings. It's as if they never existed. Velis felt something cold settle in his core. The humans had been mocked, dismissed as weak. But this was not weakness. This was silence before the strike. The Wraith drifted unseen, its cloaking field flawless. Blake adjusted his grip on the controls. His HUD painting targets in glowing red, the Zapirian Vengeance loomed ahead, its spiked hull bristling with weaponry. "Remember the plan," Vasquez's voice murmured in his ear. "Hit fast, hit hard, then vanish." Blake exhaled, with pleasure. He triggered the Wraith's railguns. Space lit up as hypervelocity rounds tore into the Vengeance's engines. The supercarrier shuddered, its shields flaring uselessly against the point. Blank barrage. Alarms blared across Zapirian channels, their hive-mind buzzing with sudden panic. Blake didn't wait for retaliation. The Wraith cloaked again, slipping away before the first return shot could be fired. On the Olympus, Cole watched the chaos unfold with widening eyes. They're scrambling. Their formations are breaking. Vasquez didn't smile. Not yet. Good. Now let's really give them something to fear. The Olympus powered up its main cannon, the massive spinal mount humming with contained energy. The targeting system locked onto the Vorac Annihilator. Fire. The singularity round lanced across the void, a streak of distorted space. Time it struck the Annihilator dead center for a heartbeat. Nothing happened. Then the Vorac ship crumpled like paper, its biomechanical hull collapsing inward as artificial gravity ripped it apart. Cole's voice was barely a whisper. Holy hell. Vasquez finally allowed herself to smile. That's one down. Aboard the Eclipse, Velis could only stare as the Vorac planet. Killer imploded. The humans had done the impossible. They'd turned the tide in seconds. His sensor officer turned to him, voice hollow. High Sage, what are they? Velis had no answer. Blake's laughter crackled over the comms. They didn't see that coming. Vasquez adjusted her stance, her gaze fixed on the remaining Zapirian forces. They will now ready the next phase. Across the human fleet, systems flared back to life, but not as they had been. New protocols activated, new weapons unlocked. The aliens had thought humanity's navy obsolete. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Zapirian supercarrier Vengeance loomed over the defenseless mining colony, its plasma cannons humming with lethal charge. Thousands of insectoid warriors scuttled through its corridors, mandibles clicking in anticipation. High Marshal Zik's compound eyes reflected the colony's dim lights as he raised a clawed limb. Burn their structures, leave none alive. Aboard the USN Wraith, Captain Ryan Blake cracked his knuckles. His fingers danced across the holographic controls, the stealth corvette's cloaking field holding steady. Lieutenant Cho monitored the Zapirian fleet's positions on her screen. "They're not even scanning for us," she whispered. Blake grinned. "They never do." The Vengeance's cannons pulsed, then exploded. A barrage of railgun slugs tore through the supercarrier's starboard engines, molten debris spinning into the void. Alarm shrieks echoed through the Zapirian hive, mind as the Wraith flickered into visibility, barely meters off their bow. Blake's voice blared over open comms. "Surprise bugs on the Olympus bridge." Admiral Vasquez watched the tactical display. The Vorac annihilator had begun turning its planet, killer cannon toward the colony. "Time to wake the giant," she murmured. Lieutenant Cole's hands flew across his console. "Singularity round loaded, Admiral." The Olympus materialized directly behind the annihilator, its blackened hull blotting out stars. The Vorac ship's biomechanical sensors spasmed. Human dreadnoughts weren't supposed to move like that. Vasquez didn't give them time to react. Fire. The spinal mounted cannon unleashed a concentrated black hole projectile. Space itself seemed to scream as the annihilator's midsection collapsed inward, decks pancaking together in a grotesque crunch of metal and flesh. Secondary explosions rippled along its length before the entire vessel imploded. Zik's mandibles trembled as his hive-mind registered the loss. Impossible their weapons. A human marine's boot smashed through his command chamber's viewport. Magnetic grenades stuck to the walls detonated, shredding Zapirian warriors into chitinous confetti. Sergeant Reyes' squad poured in, pulse rifles barking. "Room sweep," she barked. "Neural jammers active, their hive links down." Blake banked the Wraith hard, dodging a swarm of Zapirian fighters. Cho hit the button. The lieutenant slammed a glowing red control across the battlefield. Human ships unleashed MP pulses. The effect was instantaneous. Zapirian fighters spiraled out of control, their drone pilots severed from the hive. Mind the Vengeance's remaining engines sputtered and died. Blake watched through the cockpit as an entire alien armada became lifeless metal. "Turns out," he chuckled, "frying a hive's comms works wonders." Aboard the Olympus, Vasquez studied the tactical map. The Vorac fleet was in full retreat, their biomechanical tendrils flailing in panic. Cole wiped sweat from his brow. "Admiral, Luminari observers are hailing us." On screen, the crystalline being's facets shimmered with disbelief. You hid your capabilities." Vasquez adjusted her cap. "No, we just waited for you to show yours first." The remaining Zapirian ships attempted to jump to warp, only for human interdictor cruisers to activate gravity wells. Escape pods jettisoned from the Vengeance as its core went critical. Blake's voice crackled over the fleet-wide channel. "All vessels, this is Wraith actual primary objectives complete, mopping up stragglers." In the ruins of the mining colony, human medics tended to alien survivors. A Zapirian worker, its carapace cracked, stared at the medic's insignia. "Why, help us." The medic injected a painkiller. "Because we're not monsters." High above, the Olympus guns cooled. The battle had lasted 17 minutes. The galaxy would remember it for centuries. The Annihilator's biomechanical hull pulsed with sickly green light as it turned toward the Olympus. Tendrils of living metal lashed out like the limbs of some deep-sea horror, grasping at the void as the Vorac planet. Killer prepared its final maneuver. Lieutenant Marcus Cole's fingers flew across his tactical console, sweat beading on his forehead. "Admiral, they're not retreating. They're accelerating." His voice cracked slightly. "Trajectory analysis shows they're lining up for a direct ramming vector. They mean to take us with them." On the bridge of the Olympus, Admiral Vasquez didn't move. Her eyes remained fixed on the holographic display where the Annihilator loomed, its massive bulk blotting out the stars. Around her, the crew held their breath. The Vorac didn't surrender, they didn't retreat. And when cornered, they made sure their enemies burned with them. "Time to impact?" Vasquez asked, her voice calm. 45 seconds, Cole replied. "Their core is destabilizing. They're overloading their bio-reactor. If they hit us, the explosion will crack our armor like an egg." A murmur rippled through the bridge. The Olympus was humanity's pride, a dreadnought built to withstand orbital bombardments. But even she couldn't survive a Vorac death charge. Vasquez tapped a finger against her command chair. "Helm, evasive pattern Delta 7. All batteries. Target their primary tendril clusters. Buy us time." The Olympus shuddered as her thrusters fired, swinging the massive ship into a desperate sideways drift. Plasma turrets roared to life, stitching lines of fire across the Annihilator's writhing appendages. Chunks of bio-metal splintered off, but the Vorac ship didn't slow. "They're compensating," Cole shouted. "They're locking onto our drift. They'll still hit us." Vasquez exhaled slowly. "Then we don't let them hit us." She opened a fleet. "Wide channel. All ships. This is the Olympus. Clear our firing lane. Hammer protocol is authorized." A pause, then acknowledgements flickered across the comms. The Wraith's voice crackled through first. "About damn time, Admiral." Blake's grin was audible, moving to safe distance. The Olympus' main spinal cannon hummed to life, its barrel glowing a deep, ominous red along its length. Magnetic coils charged, pulling energy from the ship's core in a steady building whine. The weapon wasn't like anything the Vorac or Zapirians had seen. It wasn't plasma. It wasn't kinetics. It was something worse. "Hammer online," reported the weapons officer, his voice tight. "Singularity round loaded. Firing solution locked." Vasquez didn't hesitate. Fire. The Olympus bucked as the cannon discharged. There was no blinding beam, no torrent of destruction, just a single dark projectile streaking silently toward the Annihilator. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then space itself twisted. The Singularity round struck the Vorac ship's center mass, and the universe folded. The Annihilator's hull crumpled inward like paper caught in a fist, its massive frame collapsing in on itself. The bioreactor, already unstable, couldn't resist the pull. Light bent, metal screamed. And then, with a final, soundless shudder, the entire ship imploded into a pinpoint of darkness before vanishing entirely. The bridge of the Olympus was silent. Cole swallowed hard. Did we just black hole a planet, killer? Vasquez allowed herself a small, grim smile. We did. Outside, the remnants of the Vorac fleet scattered like startled birds, their formations breaking as the realization hit them. Humanity hadn't just matched their strength. They'd surpassed it. Blake's voice cut back over the comms, laughter in his tone. "Well, that's one way to make an impression." Vasquez leaned back in her chair, watching the last of the Vorac ships flee. "Send a message to the Council," she said quietly. "Let them know the Annihilator won't be joining their fleet exercises." The crew exchanged glances. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't playing by the old rules anymore. The Zapirian swarm descended like a living storm, thousands of fighter craft moving in perfect unison. Their formations shifted with eerie precision, a single mind controlling every ship. Admiral Vasquez watched the tactical display, her fingers tightening around the armrests of her command chair. "They're adapting faster than predicted," Lieutenant Cole reported, his voice tense. "Their hive coordination is compensating for our stealth tech." On the bridge of the Olympus, the crew braced as the first wave of Zapirian plasma fire streaked toward them. The dreadnoughts' shields flared under the assault but held. Vasquez didn't flinch. "Blake status on the Wraith?" Captain Blake's voice crackled over the comm, his usual cocky tone replaced with focused intensity. "In position, Admiral. just waiting for the right moment to ruin their day. The Wraith hovered unseen at the edge of the battle, its cloaking systems straining under the weight of the Zapirian sensor sweeps. The Zapirian High Marshal's voice boomed across all frequencies, translated through the Federation comm systems. Your tricks have failed. Humans, the swarm consumes all. The words carried the weight of 1 billion minds speaking as one. Vasquez allowed herself a small smile. Lieutenant Cole, activate Operation Hivebreaker. Across the fleet, human ships powered up systems that had remained dormant until this moment. The Olympus's main array hummed to life, its emitter nodes glowing an ominous blue. The Zapirian swarm tightened its formation, preparing for a killing strike. Then the universe screamed. The human fleet unleashed a coordinated burst of EMP pulses, each carefully tuned to the exact frequency of Zapirian hive communications. The effect was instantaneous. Zapirian fighters froze in space, their control links severed. Some collided with each other, their perfect formations dissolving into chaos. Others spun wildly, their pilots suddenly alone in their minds for the first time in their lives. The hive-mind's collective shriek of panic echoed across every comm channel. Blake didn't waste the opportunity. Wraith Squadron, light 'em up. The stealth corvette and its escorts decloaked in the heart of the swarm, their railguns spitting tungsten death. Without their hive coordination, the Zapirian fighters might as well have been target drones. On the bridge of the Olympus, Cole watched in awe as the tactical display updated. It is working, Admiral. Their entire command structure is collapsing. The once formidable swarm now resembled a nest of insects kicked open, its inhabitants scattering in mindless terror. Vasquez nodded. All ships, advance, clean up operations. The human fleet moved forward with methodical precision, their weapons picking off the disoriented Zapirian vessels. What had been a terrifying swarm moments before now resembled nothing so much as a harvest, with human ships reaping the field. Aboard the Vengeance, the Zapirian High Marshal clutched at his command throne as the feedback from the severed hive links threatened to overwhelm his mind. His secondary limbs twitched uncontrollably. Impossible, no species has ever. His words dissolved into a pained hiss as another wave of EMP static washed over his ship. Blake's voice cut through the chaos, broadcasting on all frequencies. Hey Bugs, how does it feel to have your Wi-Fi jammed? The Wraith streaked past the Vengeance's bridge, close enough for the Zapirians to see the human pilot's grinning face through the viewport. The remaining Zapirian capital ships tried to regroup, but without their fighter screen and with their command structure in tatters, they stood no chance. The Olympus's main batteries cycled up, their targeting systems locking onto the Vengeance's primary weapons array. Fire, Vasquez ordered. The dreadnoughts' cannons spoke, and the Zapirian supercarrier's forward section disintegrated in a storm of plasma and debris. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as critical systems failed in sequence. Across the battlefield, the same scene repeated itself 1,000 times over. Human ships, once dismissed as obsolete, now moved with terrifying efficiency. Their weapons found their marks with unerring accuracy. Their tactics adapted to each new development faster than any hive mind could compensate. In the span of minutes, the mighty Zapirian swarm had been reduced to scattered remnants. Their vaunted coordination turned against them. The few surviving ships attempted to flee, but human interceptors cut off their escape routes with clinical precision. Aboard the Olympus, Vasquez watched the final Zapirian cruiser surrender, its weapons powering down. She turned to Cole. Send a message to the Council. Tell them the Cygnus Expanse is secure. Her voice carried no hint of gloating, only the calm certainty of a job well done. Out in the void, the Wraith performed a victory roll past the drifting hulks of Zapirian warships. Blake's laughter echoed across the comms. Guess they should have read the fine print before messing with humanity. His corvette's engines flared as it rejoined the formation, its stealth systems humming back to life. The battle had been more than a victory. It had been a revelation. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their stealth tech or their singularity cannons. It was their ability to study, to adapt, and to strike at the exact moment when their enemies believed themselves invincible. As the human fleet regrouped, preparing for whatever came next, a single phrase began circulating through the ranks, whispered with grim satisfaction. Never jam with the hive. The lesson had been delivered, and the Zapirians wouldn't be the last to learn it. The luminary observers had seen everything. Their crystalline bodies shimmered with captured light as they transmitted the battle across the galactic networks. Every species watched in stunned silence as human ships tore through the Zapirian and Vorac fleets like they were made of paper. Inside the council chamber, the air had gone still. The Zapirian High Marshal's mandibles hung slack. The Vorac representative's mechanical joints locked in place, hissing steam. The luminary High Sage floated forward, her facets pulsing with subdued light. "You hid your true strength," she said, her voice resonating like wind chimes. Admiral Vasquez's face appeared on the central hollow display, the Olympus bridge visible behind her. Scorch marks streaked the walls. A crewman in the background was sealing a ruptured conduit with emergency foam. She didn't look triumphant, just tired. "No," Vasquez said, wiping soot from her brow. "We just fight smarter." The Zapirian High Marshal finally found his voice. "Impossible. Your ships were outdated, your weapons. We're exactly what we wanted you to see," Vasquez interrupted. "You scanned our fleet 100 times, saw the same old hulls, the same outdated signatures. Never questioned why we never upgraded." Lieutenant Cole's voice crackled over the feed. "Admiral, final sweep complete. Last Vorac signatures have gone dark." Vasquez nodded. "Good. Recall all fighters." The luminary High Sage's facets dimmed. "You let us believe you were weak. We let you believe what you wanted to," Vasquez corrected. "You assumed we'd fight like you, big ships, big guns, straight lines." She smirked. "Humans don't play fair." The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Delegates from a dozen species turned to each other. Appendages waving, voices rising in disbelief. The Vorac representative's mechanical limbs twitched. "The stealth systems. A prototype," Vasquez said. "We've had them for years, just never used them where you could see." Captain Blake's face popped up on another feed, the Wraith's cockpit behind him. He was grinning. "Funny thing about cloaking tech works better when the enemy doesn't know it exists." The Zapirian High Marshal's exoskeleton rattled. "The impulses." "Oh, those," Blake laughed. "Yeah, we've been studying hive-mind comms for a while. Turns out jamming your signal is easier than shooting your ships." The luminary High Sage drifted closer to the display and the singularity weapon. Vasquez's expression hardened. "That was new. We don't like using it." Silence. The Vorac representative's voice was barely audible. "You held back." "We always hold back," Vasquez said. "That's the point." The feeds cut. The council chamber was left in stunned silence. The luminary observers continued broadcasting, their crystalline bodies capturing every second of the aftermath. The Olympus drifted amidst the wreckage of the Zapirian and Vorac fleets, its blackened hull gleaming under the distant star. Smaller human ships flitted between the debris, collecting survivors, human and alien alike. On 1,000 worlds in 1,000 languages, the same realization dawned. The humans had never been weak. They had been waiting. The luminary High Sage turned to the council. "This changes everything." No one argued. In the far corner of the chamber, a minor delegate from a backwater system whispered to his aide. The words spread like wildfire. "Never provoke the humans." The Olympus drifted toward the council's orbital ring, its battle-scarred hull gleaming under the artificial sunlight. Every scorch mark, every dent told a story, one the assembled alien delegates were finally ready to hear. Admiral Vasquez stood at the observation deck, watching as the Zapirian and Vorac ships limped behind them, their once proud fleets reduced to shadows. Lieutenant Cole adjusted his uniform collar. "They're transmitting surrender codes on all channels." "Admiral." Vasquez didn't turn. "Good." The docking clamps engaged with a resonant thud. The airlock hissed open, revealing a delegation of luminari, their crystalline bodies refracting light in nervous patterns. The High Sage floated forward, his voice a melodic chime. "Admiral Vasquez, the council awaits." She stepped forward, boots echoing on the metallic walkway. Behind her, Captain Blake fell into step, his smirk barely contained. "Think, they'll still call us obsolete." The council chamber was nothing like before. The holographic displays now showed the wreckage of the Vengeance and the Annihilator, looping footage of the Wraith decloaking point, blank into the Zapirian flagship's blind spot. The Vorac representative's mechanical limbs twitched as Vasquez entered. The Zapirian High Marshal rose, his chitinous plate still bearing fresh scars from the EMP pulses that had crippled his swarm. His mandibles clicked once, not in mockery, but in something unfamiliar respect, "Admiral." Vasquez stopped at the center of the chamber. The room was silent. The Luminari High Sage spoke first. "Your tactics, they were not in any known database. Your stealth systems, your weaponry, were ours," Vasquez finished. "You assumed we had nothing because we showed you nothing." A murmur rippled through the delegates. The Vorac representative's voice box crackled. "You let us believe you were weak." Blake crossed his arms, "and you fell for it." The High Marshal's antennae drooped. "We underestimated you." Vasquez stepped forward, her gaze sweeping the room. "You didn't just underestimate us. You ignored centuries of human history. We don't start fights. We finish them." The displays flickered, shifting to the final moments of the battle. The Olympus singularity round tearing through the Annihilator. The EP pulses silencing the Zapirian swarm mid. Attack. The Vorac representative's mechanical joints locked. "That weapon, it was designed to counter your planet killers." Vasquez nodded. "We've been ready for you for a long time." The chamber fell into stunned silence. The Luminari High Sage's crystalline form pulsed with realization. "You wanted us to attack, to reveal our strategies." Captain Blake chuckled. "Bingo." The High Marshal's claws flexed, then stilled. "What now?" Vasquez turned to the assembled delegates. "Now humanity takes its seat at this table, not as petitioners, not as equals." She let the words hang, as the ones who just proved were the most dangerous species in this room. The Vorac representative's optics dimmed. The Zapirian's wings shuddered. Lieutenant Cole tapped his datapad, transmitting new defense protocols to all council members. "Effective immediately, any hostile action against human territories will be met with." He glanced at the footage of the imploding Annihilator. Overwhelming response. The Luminari High Sage bowed, light fracturing through his body in submission. "The Enclave recognizes humanity's terms." One by one, the others followed. As Vasquez turned to leave, the High Marshal spoke again. "Admiral." His voice was quieter now. "We will not forget this lesson." She paused at the door. "Good, because next time, we won't stop at your ships." The Olympus departed the ring under escort. Not as prisoners, but as the new power in the galaxy. Behind them, the Council's broadcasts spread the footage to every corner of known space, on 1,000 worlds in 1,000 languages. The same phrase began to circulate: "Never provoke the humans."